Paranoia is in bloom. The PR transmissions will assume they'll try to push drugs to keep us all dumbed down and hope that they will never see the truth around. Another promise, another scene, another package lie to keep us trapped in greed. Another green bells wrapped around our minds, an endless red tape to keep the truth confined. They will not force us. They will stop degrading us. They will not control us. We will be victorious.
Hello, everybody. Where's Miguel? Miguel, where are you at? Damn, Miguel, you're always first. So sorry about the late promo tonight. I worked late, and things were chaos. But we have a great guest tonight, so I'm excited about that. Andrew, are you excited about Saturday? Are you like overwhelmed? Because guess what, guys? I'm going to Andrews. Yeah. I'm excited. We're going to have fun in Beantown. Who is first? Let's see.
We got Jesco Mister. Hello, Jesco Mister.
Jesco.
Yeah. So
I'm texting Whoopty now, like I'm live, bitch. Get on.
Let's go, Whoopty.
Actually, she calls me whore and I call her bitch, but it's actually not mean, because when she calls me whore, it's actually HOAR, so it's not really it's a term of endearment. I don't mind.
There you go.
Yeah. Cool. So, anyway, our guest tonight, let's bring him in, Rob Larson. I feel like it's a very, I feel like it's kind of an Irish, like Rob Larson. I don't know. It just kind of has that feel. But thanks so much for joining, Rob. And I don't even know how to introduce you, because you have like a bajillion, things. Like, you're an economics professor. You also work with current affairs. You're a writer. So just give the peoples a synopsis and introduce yourself.
Oh yeah, okay. Thanks, Marie. Evening, everybody. Rob Larson here. I'm an economics professor, and I'm the house economist at Current Affairs magazine, and I write a bunch of big crazy books about capitalism and why we shouldn't have it. The one that's kind of most known is Capitalism versus Freedom, the Toll Road to Serfdom, which is available in locations in the world. And I have a new book coming out in August with Haymarket Books, Mastering the Universe, on the ruling class and their slimy bullshittery. So that's exciting.
Nice. We love Haymarket.
They're saying, just say no to capitalism.
Yeah, it's time the young people woke up to this.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah. Oh, and speaking of which, you guys, it's that time. It's, that C word time, that's like just capitalist, like orgasm 24/7. Let's not. Let's just see. I got this beautiful handmade Free Palestine barrette by an independent artist. That's how you should do things. Make stuff, buy stuff from artists. We're going to talk about Amazon. Let's not go there. So a lot of people think that, the Amazon thing is over. Just like last week, we gave updates on Starbucks. A lot of people think once you are unionized, it kind of stops at that. But we're finding out more and more that even though people are unionized, there's still elected people within that union who may not be the best for them, or even though they're unionized, the powers that be still push back on them. So, and I believe, Rob, you're in a union as well, right?
Yes, ma'am. AFT, Local 2196. And I'm our Labor Council representative also, which means I know everything that happens in this town because every month all the labor reps get together and you learn a lot of slimy stuff. If you really want to know your town, get in the local labor council.
Nice. Andrew, what do we have here? What's the update?
Yeah, so today was Monday, Cyber Monday, and so one of the some of the workers in Amazon, in support of the Amazon Teamsters, and they were striking this morning at the Amazon Fulfillment Center (RDU), and so this is just a little video of them striking on Cyber Monday.
Hey, hey, ho, ho! Corporate greed has got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho! Corporate greed has got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho! Corporate greed has got to go.
Oh, you love to see it.
Yes.
And so, nope, I don't want this one. All right. So these are their demands, just to see, as to give a reason of why they are striking. So they want on-site healthcare staff by licensed medical professionals, reform the accommodation process to be about health and recovery, remove paid time off cap, 2-hour peak bonus in their term of double overtime during peak, no expiration date on chronic injuries. Rest breaks should begin upon entering the break room rather than scan to scan. Travel time should not be considered part of the break. Stop automated write-ups and discipline. Abolish all disciplinary actions for workers based on rates. The right to one earbud of our choice in roles where it's safe and a say in which process paths are deemed safe. And retaliation in any form against attempts to organize across the network. Amazon must recognize that its drivers are Amazon employees, not subcontractors. The 21st century labor movement is witnessing a long overdue renaissance, and with the guidance of the same providence that has so often smiled upon those who seek justice, and we are faithful that we, the workers of Amazon, will soon witness such victories at our workplaces. We take this moment of solidarity to urge our coworkers across our continent, but especially at RDU1 and across the Carolinas, don't quit, organize.
Nice. Those are some pretty badass demands, honestly.
Yeah, that's like such a great mix of quality of life and like essentials. That's like an impeccably structured thing. Like, you know, we're actual employees, not contractors, and our commute time should not be counted as part of breaks and shit. Mm-hmm. But then like one earpod, like what a humane article that is. Today's labor movement just is so much more in touch with like the actual needs of, from the, you know, the limited exposure I have to it. It seems like there's just a lot more in tune with what people really need these days.
Absolutely. And I think Andrew and I have spoken about this many times, but, and Andrew, you can comment first then, but don't you think it's a lot of it? I always say the kids, and I feel like so old because I'm 44. So anyone who's younger, I call the kids. But don't you think it is the younger people who are pushing this, unionized movement forward?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's, particularly with Starbucks, it's a lot of Gen Z people who are leading this movement. And we spoke before regarding UAW, right? And how Sean Fain, one of the reasons why he actually got elected was because a lot of the grad student workers in colleges, as Rob, who works in ones, who recently unionized, right? They brought the overall union more to the left, right? So even when you look at places like, General Motors, right, that just, negotiated their contracts more, right? And those other big three, it's amazing to see how one thing leads to the other in a positive way in that sense.
Yeah, that's funny too. Like that is a great point because I like Joy Marie am old enough now to like remember like back in the 90s and early 2000s when like UAW trying to organize grad programs was, graduate students need a union more than any other workers I can think of. But there was a long time when that was seen as something the UAW was doing, so it was sort of easier waters to fish in rather than, trying to actually organize more auto union plants that are owned by overseas automakers, which have been so difficult. And, God willing, the UAW's new drive will make better headway than the old guard did. But that is such a hilarious ramification of it. Like, oh, let's just organize some grad students, these little wimpy left-wing kids. They don't work in a factory, but, it could be okay. We'll get some more dues, some more union in there. And they end up like becoming a leftist swing bloc that can bring in this fantastic leadership. I mean, I don't know if you guys saw, but right when that incredible contract was first signed, before it barely got ratified by all the locals, like the Wall Street Journal, the right-wing capitalism newspaper owned by Rupert Murdoch, of course. It's what I read every day as an economist. It's my job. Half my Twitter feed is just bitching about shit that's in the Wall Street Journal op-ed page. It's Fox News with AP English, basically. But when that contract got signed, they did a grudgingly very respectful profile of all these young organizers around Fain. And they were forced to specifically name check all these tiny, obscure left-wing publications that some of us have been reading and enjoying for years, like Labor Notes, Dollars and Cents, the Socialist Economics magazine, which people should check out. Great to see those in there. Like, this is who we need, having the ear of labor's new dynamic leadership. We don't need another Obama centrist Grimald Wormtongue in there. We need slick ass leftists with cool, edgy ideas. So I kind of didn't make that connection with the UAW and the grad students, but it makes complete sense. And nice to see something so positive come out of it, because their organizing model is, like the Journal was forced to admit, was very successful.
That's pretty amazing. I gotta check that out because it's and it's so funny you would say AP English because I was an English major, and every time I read that, I'm like, why does this sound like that? Like, it sounds like, are these people really writers? Like, are they? Yeah. But no, I definitely got to check that out for sure. That's pretty amazing.
Definitely.
I think one thing that was interesting was I remember when I was covering Harvard, for instance, right? And certain grad school workers at Harvard who were trying to unionize, right? Or negotiate their contracts, right, per se. And I remember one person said, who cares about them? Tomorrow they're going to be the oppressors, right? And it depends. First of all, there's a lot of nuance there because this is a wide range of people who are, have different specialties in going into it. But I think we have no control about what they're going to be doing tomorrow. We do have control of what they can do now in terms of being supported with what they're doing in the colleges. And I think the reason why I go back to that is I think it was like you were just mentioning, Rob, people didn't necessarily realize the trickle effect it would have, right? And how that indirectly and in some cases even directly helped the big three negotiate their contracts, whether it was the leadership that was voted in, where it was a lot of those limpy leftists or whatever we want to say from college that helped swing and get somebody who is much more ideologically left aligned like Sean Fain. So yeah.
And everyone's take has been like, oh, these leftists, they're not serious. I mean, the UAW just eliminated the two-tier contracts, which have been undermining union strength and obviously pay of hardworking people for 20 years or more. I guess from the 90s, actually longer, I guess. That's a hell of a, this is a lot more than like getting a good, public statement out about Palestine. This is like people's health insurance and shit. So, just the best thing you can say.
Absolutely. Yeah, this is definitely promising. I guess I kind of understand where people are coming from when they say that they, they'll become the people, like essentially the oppressors they're fighting against now. But I think part of that is just because we are so disgusted by politicians, and I think we have to separate that. Like, like, okay, Cori Bush, she was homeless, she had no health care. Now does she give a fuck? Hell no, she doesn't give a shit. So it's things like that, but we got to think about it on as 99 percenters. How many of these people really are going to become those oppressors?
No, a lot of them are going to become adjunct professors, or people who are going to be working in labs all day, getting underpaid and not getting credit for like what they're just helping discovering or pull through. That can be really helpful for them, right? So
yeah,
there's a big range of what grad student workers are there for and what they're trying to do and what they are going to do. And I think that is a way to kind of undermine what's happening here if you just focus on, well, some of them might become bad people. Yeah, I mean, yeah, so
that's something that like is a I mean, I'm a defeatist sometimes. I'm a realist, but I'm a defeatist sometimes. But that seems like a kind of like a bad faith argument on people who are supposed to be on your side, so to speak. That's kind of weird, but I have seen people say that as well. It's kind of bananas.
Yeah, and it kind of feeds into that whole miscomprehension of class warfare that everyone likes these days. Like even conservatives now will talk class warfare, but it's like white collar against blue collar. Like, did you go to college or not? Oh, you went to college. You're the ruling class now. Donald Trump is not the ruling class. It's about culture. Just like the ripest bullshit in the universe. Like some people go to college will go to work for McKinsey and become the lieutenants of the ruling class. Yes, but because you have a bachelor's degree that you went 40K into debt for, you are not the owning class, the wealthy households that own the stock in corporate America. Like that is the nexus of ownership and power and control that is the ruling class too. So also when people do that whole college kids, they're going to become the oppressor. Like that is the other half of the middle class is not your enemy. Like plenty of them are assholes and have stupid things to say. That's true across every class wall to wall, But this, like when you get into that, you forget who the real class like enemy is. Like who's in charge? Some guy who got a humanities degree, or maybe an MBA through one of my programs that works for Bank of America. Yes, but like they're not the ones who own the system and collect the dividends and make money from their wealth. If you're earning money through your labor, you're still the working class, even if you're a snooty bachelor's degree holder.
Yeah, and a lot of these people who work in labor are working for companies that do terrible things, right? So should you blame the worker who's just trying to make ends meet and, for like, they're not the enemy, it's the people exploiting them, and it's the company that is having a net negative on society. So, yeah.
No doubt. What do we have next on the agenda?
Yeah, so now we're speaking of Palestine, so we're going to be now switching over and talking a lot about that. So this is a clip that Joy brought up, of Claire Dolly. So notice the caption says, "No surprise at all, most spyware comes from Israel, the global nerve center of repressive technology tested in the Palestine laboratory. Parliament's position on it should be no sale of it, no use of it, full stop, the end. It's not abuse that's the problem, it's use." And so I'll play this video right now.
Or this report, the Parliament's position on spyware should be clear. No sale of it, no use of it, full stop, the end. It's not abuse that's the problem, as the resolution said, it's use. There's no way to use spyware that isn't abusive. It's a weapon, it's target our civilians, and no European government should be using weapons against its citizens, against civilians. Of course, it's no surprise at all that this was developed in Israel, Israel being infamous for at the cutting edge of technologies of vicious repression. It is the nerve center of global development of technologies of violence, subjugation, and control. Weapons and surveillance technology tested on Palestinians and marketed and sold to Western governments with boasts of its effectiveness in grinding people's rights into the dust. There's even a name for it, the Palestine Laboratory. Well, as long as this laboratory exists, the world is a more dangerous, violent place. And the cause of Palestine is the cause of the world. If anyone in here cares about human rights, you'll wake up and recognise that.
Ah, I love her so much. I can't. Like, she's like, I really don't care when I meet so-called famous people, but like, oh my God, if I could just give her a hug, like, she's so fucking awesome. I have yet to see anything she's ever said that I'm not like, fuck yes. She's just so amazing. Rob, what do you think about that speech?
This is, the kind of messaging, you hope to see in moments like this when things are so dire and so cruel. Like that is, I mean, I don't have a big analysis here. I just feel like that's a very broad, like a message for that, like a broad public can understand. It is very easy, getting back to grad school stuff to talk. It's easy to get stuck in your grad school lingo and, get into colonization and stuff like that, which obviously is important. But I like that. That's a very understandable message. That's a ton of appeal. I see this stuff, and I hope I'm seeing like the future of left wing communication, because then we could have like a real future. I love that. I don't have like no notes.
I just think it was something I don't think a lot of us thought about. We're, being kind of rightfully so consumed with the videos and the stories and stuff. And I thought, well, shit, I didn't really even think about that. Andrew, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where you don't think about it all the time, but then when you hear it, it makes sense, right? Like, okay, yeah.
For sure.
And so it's great when, this is honestly what politicians should be doing, right? They should be educating people on what is going on, right?
Yeah.
And breaking it down. We sometimes forget about that because nobody does it, right? And oftentimes, going back to what Rob was saying in terms of the lingo, right? Oftentimes politicians, like, you mentioned in your academic circles as well, but in politicians as well, they love to use big words so that they can sound smart, but then have people still be more confused. And that's by design, because then people can, they're hoping people would think, oh, well, he sounds smart. He knows, I guess, what he's doing. I guess I'll just let this one go, and they can do it as they may. When in reality, what that is probably horrifying, probably against your best interests, right? So I think that's just a good reminder of, why I think you can, and I don't think any of us are people here who regularly say, oh, this politician's great. But I think that's one thing you can appreciate from someone like Claire Dolly, at least in this clip.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, as far as using big words, like, didn't you see the other day when Biden was like anti-disestablishmentarianism? You didn't see that?
I don't
You
think
saw
so.
that, right? Oh, yeah. Profound.
Yeah. And so have a hunger strike that is going on. This is Chuck Modi mentioning we have 15,000 civilians killed. Sorry, were you going to say something?
Oh, I was just saying, Chuck, love you.
Chuck.
If you're watching, love you to pieces.
We have 15,000 civilians killed in 7 weeks, 70% whom are children and women. That's more civilians than were killed in 20 years of war in Afghanistan. Cynthia Nixon joins hunger strike of activists at White House to demand ceasefire.
We just had a press conference where we explained who we are and why we're here. Because we have almost 15,000 civilians killed in just 7 weeks, 70% of whom are children and women. And to put that in some kind of perspective, that's more civilians than were killed in 20 years of war in Afghanistan by the U.S. and U.S. allies.
That's perspective.
Yeah.
Wow.
The deaths that we have seen are largely due to the bombs, but so many Palestinians now are on the verge of starvation. Only 7% of the nutrition they need is being let in on a daily basis. So we are here hunger striking just to sort of mirror to Biden the kind of deprivation that is happening in Gaza, and how he has it within his power to make a ceasefire happen and to allow humanitarian aid in.
Is there anything else you'd like to add?
You know, the Palestinian cause has been, I think, one that so many people have looked away from for so long. And what's happening now is horrifying, but at least it is making it impossible for people to look away anymore.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I freaking love her. But, you know, I can't look at her without thinking that in 2016 and 2015, I don't know if you guys remember, yeah, Hillary, first woman president, Hillary. Everything was Hillary. You don't vote for Hillary. It's because she has a vagina. Nobody cares. Like, she was like so hardcore Hillary. And then in 2020, she came out and ran against Cuomo, and she's like endorsed Bernie. Don't get me started on him, but back then it mattered. And she started, you know, she became an activist, and like this chick, this is who I'll ride with. She fucking rocks. That is so badass. And like, I hate me if you want, but like the people who watch Sex and the City, the ones I've known are pretty fucking insipid. So the fact that she's going out and kind of bringing her audience to these things, I find that incredibly empowering.
Yeah, I always liked her. For my part, I felt on Sex and the City she was underused with her boring storyline about her senile parents.
Her, yeah. Well, except Samantha.
totally-
I was for Samantha too.
Oh, sure. Well, of course, there's a part of all of us in each of the girls, of coururse.
It's like Golden Girls.
You know, I always liked her on that show. I loved her in the campaign. New York State doesn't deserve that bitch. Like, she is. You know, Clinton, I mean, lots of good people support Clinton. Everyone makes a really embarrassing mistake every once in a while. It's fine. I would just say, though, that was a great statement. Oh, gosh, she's so great. She put it perfectly. One major lesson, though, for all of us on this: when doing outdoor interviews, get a fucking windsock.
Yeah.
You need. I couldn't. What does she say? I can't make out what she's saying. She don't have anything. You know, it's blustery in DC this time of year. You know, just a little simple, like a literal sock will even do it in a pinch. You know, so left media creators out there, keep that in mind.
In defense of my boy, he's the best journalist around, and he uses his phone. So, in defense of him, but yeah, no, oh God, I've done way worse than that. The last time I was at a Palestine rally in Harrisburg, I don't think anyone could hear a fucking word. But at least they got good images, so that counts. But Andrew, what do you think about Cynthia?
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad that she's bringing attention to this. I think it's always refreshing to see when people use their name recognition and in many ways is privilege to draw attention to these certain things, right? It almost, and I don't know obviously what's going on when you think of people like Cynthia Nixon and Susan Sarandon, what's going on through their head. But, you get to the point where it's like, I had my career, right? I was pretty successful. What are you going to do? Blacklist me? Like,
yeah,
I make, I made my money.
Blacklist me from retirement. Like,
right.
So that's when it comes to, and I think we were talking a little bit earlier about class. Obviously, they are in a much different class segment than I am, and I think both of you are. But when they kind of almost use it to their advantage, being like, look, I'm all set, I'm fine, instead of doing bidding for a firm or, doing advertisements of stupid, car commercials or whatever, you have it. Actually putting their energy into these things and bringing attention without worrying about the repercussions like that. It's great to see.
Yeah, that's a good point, Andrew, especially when you compare her to certain other retired on-camera celebrities who we need not name them, John Lovitz, but for example.
Oh, no, he did not.
Oh my God, that guy is I always like John Lovitz. All these people, I have affection for them, and then either they turn out good or they turn out bad. But yeah, Lovitz is like some of the ugliest shit ever. You could just shut his fat, funny mouth. But now, still, you people who do something good in their retirement, just remember, it's they could do ugly ass shit in their retirement too. That's also popular.
George Takei. Yeah. Man. Yeah, I'll have to check out Lovitz. That's why, like, honestly, that's why I love fucking George Carlin, because he can't disappoint me. He's already dead. So, like, I'm like, yeah, Joe Strummer and George Carlin, these people are the only people I'll call heroes, because I'm not going to have them come out one day and be like, vote for Biden. Like, I already know that they can't piss me off. They're dead. I digress, but Rob, do you have like a dead hero?
Well, sure. I really looked up to Howard Zinn and Edward Said, someone whose work people are discussing more and more. Those are big figures on my part. I could just take a moment here and say, anyone who knows my work, or if you've seen my other books, like my first 3 books were all blurbed by Noam Chomsky, who, has been a just completely unique asset on the American left for so many fucking years. And with every hideous thing happening in Gaza, there is nothing from Noam. And I doubt it's because he changed sides. I bet it's because he turns 95 next month, I think. And, I hope he lives to see it. That sweet man. I think, I'm sure like many Chomsky fans out there, I fear the worst. His advanced age and all, and his being quiet through this kind of thing is very out of character. So I think I'm about to have a very beloved late hero.
Well, I think, part of that is because, his connections with Epstein and everything that kind of put a little damper on his legacy a little bit.
Having someone like do your deed transfer. I mean, like Wall Street Journal, again, to mention those assholes, they've been like doing a ton. Like their reporters are very good. Unlike their editorial page, their journalists are fantastic, because they're business journalists. You need real information if you're going to be a money-making executive. They were running down all the leads on Epstein. It was like, oh, Chase Bank said that they cut ties with them, but here we have here's where he did just some commercial transaction or some financial move, And by the time they got down to like guys like Chomsky, it's like, well, I'm retired and my wife died and I knew he was a finance guy and he moved money for me. If that part was not so shocking, but that definitely wouldn't be something that would have him not coming out and talking about Gaza, though. Like I think specifically. Yeah. But everyone's got to have their legacy tarnished somehow. I look forward to doing mine at some point.
Yeah, definitely. I think about that sometimes, for sure. Not yours, but mine. Andrew, what about you?
Who is my dead hero? I mean, I'm a little upset. We've already mentioned George Carlin, because he definitely is one of them, I would say, in terms of a dead hero. I mean, I've only really knew him since he was dead. I found out about him since he was a little before my time. And I think it was just, I remember watching the very first SNL skit where George Carlin was the first person to host and open it. And I don't remember everything that he said, but he literally talked about how, the Europeans stole the land, this land from indigenous people. And that was like in the early 70s. And I think that right there just shows like how ahead of his time he really was. Wow. Granted, it later admitted that he doesn't remember anything of that because he was high on cocaine at the time. But, I think it just shows how spot on cocaine or no cocaine he was just naturally as a person, and his take on life. And I think there is something to be said too about people who, and of course, even if this is the case, you can't say this to everybody, but people who have, are raised in more blue collar working class backgrounds, right? Wow. There are some people who I think, even though they do get famous, they are able to kind of remember and empathize, right? Others not as much, but they kind of have a little bit of an understanding that others don't. But yeah.
Absolutely. So this woman, who I still have not found out who she is, but I love her. I asked several people in the comments on the Twitter, and nobody responded. So I really want to find out who she is, but I just love her. She's great. And while we watch this clip, please watch Wolf Blitzer's eyeballs, because wow.
Wolf, we weren't allowed to see anything. Israeli authorities blocked off roads, corralled the media into one location, brought the Palestinians in through the back door when they received them, and then only allowed family members to come in very limited single file in individual cars. And there's a reason for that. Because unlike the images of celebration, which you might have seen from Ramallah and the West Bank, here in East Jerusalem, Israeli authorities were better able to enforce the diktat of their far-right national security minister, who has deemed the prisoners released today as terrorists. But not just that, he said any Palestinian who celebrates will themselves be charged as terrorists. I mean, just to break that down a little bit, there is no grounds to call them terrorists, because by Israel's own reckoning, those 39 prisoners were 15 minors, 10 of whom were only charged, and 24 women, 23 were detained, not charged, and 10 of the minors were detained, not charged. So it complicates telling this story. So imagine your daughter has come home to you and you have to hide indoors to express your joy. I want to show you this video, Wolf, of a daughter reuniting with her mother that was sent to us by the family. Take a listen. That young lady you see there, the reason, I mean, there's no reason, it's her daughter, but beyond that, she had been arrested at the age of 16, convicted at 17 for 10 years, accused of attempted stabbing. Her family and her lawyer and Israeli and Palestinian rights groups say that this was a miscarriage of justice. Her family had taken this all the way to the Israeli Supreme Court, and her mother had.
So there's actually been an update on that situation. Let me see. I just screenshotted it. So now it states that, let's see. Okay, so anyone caught celebrating in Palestine, including in their homes, that one of the hostages has been released, whether you know them or not, will be arrested and will be charged $15,000 fucking dollars. And it says, and you are not allowed to give any sweets either, like some kind of celebration. So not only can they not fucking, hug their kids, I mean, like, they're human. How can you just not fucking do that? And now they can't even do it in the privacy of their own home. And they're also saying any of the hostages that they released, political prisoners technically, that they released, they're not even allowed to give interviews, which scares me because some of them are. So I'm like, they're finally released and they're going to have to go right back to prison. But they know that it's so important they speak out. So they're doing it anyway. But it's like, watch the Israeli side, so to speak. They have celebrations. They have parades. They have everyone cheering and clapping. They have, I mean, it's a fucking celebration. Okay. And in no way did, I don't want to say because they'll take down my video, but HAMAS say, you better not celebrate, or, you know, I mean, it's total fucking fascism to say you can't even hug your loved ones and celebrate the fact that they're, and even not just throw a party with balloons, celebrate, like celebrate as in, oh my God, I love you, I've missed you. Rob, what is your take when you see shit like that?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty powerful footage there. You know, as someone else said, I'm amazed this was on CNN. That's somebody,
Right.
you know, one of their producers, like, you know, had an asthma attack or something, or like, you know, got hit on the head, and so like their junior staffer like allowed that to go through, I think.
Right.
It's pretty fucking heinous just to hear about this stuff. I mean, whenever you've got a situation where you have some authoritarian government of some type just determined to destroy your people, it's never just like kill them all. I mean, obviously they do that, but it's also like just like and shit in their lives, like make their lives shitty while they're alive. You know, I always think of like during the period when the Nazis, not just to go directly to that, when the Nazis were tightening the noose around the Jews of Europe and making their lives harder and banning them from public parks and saying, you know, Jewish doctors couldn't have German patients and stuff like that. One of the things they did was they made it illegal for Jewish households to have pets. So you have to get rid of your cat. You can't have that cat anymore. You're a Jew. Why you can't have a cat? That's crazy. You know, it's just like, shit. We can't kill you now. We can make your life really shitty. So you can't have a celebration. I better not see a balloon or a fucking firework go off because your daughter, who you haven't seen in 17 of her 31 years, apparently, is back. Like, you know, how dare you do that? Like, this is just about like ruin their lives, like maximize their misery. So, you know, it's beautiful to see those poor people getting their kids back. I mean, you think about what families go through when they lose someone like due to illness or something like that. It's just like a completely devastating thing. If you like lost a loved one because of some war, because some powerful, you know, piece of shit prime minister or something decided they wanted some land, like that is, I don't know how you begin to deal with that. And then, yeah, criminalize their expression of their feelings is just a stunning thing. You know, meanwhile, the Israelis will have parades. Like I will bet you 1,000 shekels that the Israelis, with these freed hostages, God bless them, you know, went through a horrible experience with something that never would have happened if not for 50 years of occupation. Like, they'll get a parade. And with the Palestinians, I better not see you smiling. It's pretty ugly, man. I mean, it's just like ugly, fascist, you know, ethnic. You know, we're seeing this last month how openly a government like the Likud party can just call again and again for ethnic cleansing. And then we're going to censure the best congressional representative because she used a phrase which extremely debatably could be construed as ethnic cleansing of Jews. But the Palestinians are getting actively ethnically cleansed, and their government's like, yeah, we're cleansing them. It's going really good. An amazing thing to behold in our own goofy country. So powerful footage indeed.
Meanwhile, as a senator, you can threaten to fight somebody in a hearing and nothing happens.
A lot of people are mad at Bernie for not taking stronger stances on Gaza, and reasonably so. He's been disappointing. He was always better on labor than foreign policy. It's, you know, we shouldn't be settled for it. I'm glad people are pissed off. They should be. You know, this is Congress people. You shove them and maybe they get better. But one thing I'm mad at Bernie about is keeping that fight from happening between the Teamster head and that pathetic freaking senator who we have on camera cowering from the January 6th insurrectionists. Where's your big boy pretend play pistol then, you dumb dick? So that's where Bernie fucked up, was by imposing decorum on the Senate room. He should have been like, oh, he said you're a pussy. Like, that would have been, that's how I would have played that situation if I were the chair of the Senate Finance Committee.
Exactly. I would have been like, I just filibustered in my pants. That's what I would have been like. But
he called you a pussy. You're gonna take that from him? Oh, like that's how you get it going.
Although I will say, it
What's
was
that,
kind
Andrew?
of funny. This 80-year-old guy being like, "Sit down," and the guy is like, "Oh, okay." Like, I think that also brought. I mean,
you know,
I completely get it. I would have liked to have just seen, you know, them deck it out, and you know, Sean O'Brien definitely would have beaten him up.
Oh,
no
yeah.
doubt.
Yeah.
But it was.
I'm
also
not a betting
kind of funny
man,
just
but I know where I
being
would have
like,
wagered if it came to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, sit
For
down.
sure,
And the guy's like,
for sure.
"Oh, okay."
Oh, if you force me, Bernie Sanders, with your intense physical heart attack presence to sit down, of course I'm just dying to fight this tough as nails.
With your
bald-ass
disappointing grandparent voice, yeah.
Oh my God. He does have that authority. It's true.
He does. He does.
Oh, you're a United States Senator.
That was
I've been in Vermont for 45 years. I wish I could see the comments. What do we have next?
So we have an advertisement.
Ooh, that's a pretty good deal there. Oh, interesting.
For what is it?
Some crap.
Yeah, covering the article. I guess I didn't realize that there was a limit to me showing the article or whatever. But I'll just talk about what it was. So there was yesterday morning for 4 hours, the Manhattan Bridge was blocked in New York City. In order, fighting for a ceasefire. And so I'll see if
Are you sure it was yesterday?
Yes, it was yesterday.
Oh, okay. Because I
Monday
thought
morning. Yeah.
Oh, because
Yeah.
I know it could have been the San Francisco, because I know they blocked a bridge on Thanksgiving Day, which was pretty powerful.
Right. Yeah.
That's pretty
Yeah.
rad, though.
There's been a lot, but here I got another article. This is The Guardian, which is honestly better than the New York Daily News anyway. So, pro-Gaza ceasefire activists shut down Manhattan Bridge for hours. Jewish Voice for Peace estimates that more than 1,500 protesters calling for permanent ceasefire blocked cars amid holiday traffic. And so New York peace activists calling for a permanent ceasefire in Gaza staged their most dramatic action to date on Sunday, closing down the Manhattan Bridge for 3 hours as people were returning from the Thanksgiving break. Organizers with the anti-Zionist group Jewish Voice for Peace estimate more than 1,500 protesters blocked traffic on the bridge connecting Lower Manhattan to Brooklyn as they chanted "Let Gaza Live" and other messages calling for a permanent ceasefire in the Palestinian territory where Israel and Hamas have warred since October. The demonstration came on one of the heaviest travel days of the year, and it followed a series of orchestrated pro-ceasefire disruptions, including sit-ins at Grand Central Station and marches timed to snarl traffic and maximize commuter disruption. We saw the Grand Central Station. That was a pretty big protest. We know that business as usual can't continue while the U.S. government is continuing to fund and fuel genocidal attacks against the Palestinians of Gaza. A JVP spokesperson, Jay Sapper, told The Guardian on Monday, "We know that taking mass action is necessary to help build international outcry that can stop the bombings permanently." And so the civic protests had made it impossible for the U.S. government to ignore polling that show a majority of Americans want a permanent ceasefire. Sapper added, "We are continuing to organize in historic fashion. We shut down Grand Central Station, causing the largest mass arrest for civil disobedience in the city has seen in 2 decades, one of the largest mass sit-ins in Congress, and took over the Statue of Liberty."
I was there.
Yeah.
In DC when they did that mass arrest. Oh my God. Shout out to Jewish Voice for Peace. I've had some of their members on here. Just some of the best organizers ever. Seriously, they are so phenomenal, and they do such a thorough job explaining things to non-Jews like myself and making me truly, like, they've educated me so much. And they're just totally they will fight tooth and nail for justice for Palestinians, and it's so beautiful. And they have organized things so quickly. I mean, we were the first one I was at in DC. I mean, they organized it in 2 days, and they had tons of speakers, including like Rashida and what's her name? Naomi Klein, and all these great people, and it was within 2 days. They had a stage, they had a sound system. We marched. That's where 300 of them got arrested inside the Capitol. But the best part was Marjorie Taylor Greene flipped us off, which was kind of awesome. But yeah,
Icing
shout
on the
out to
cake.
them. What's that?
Yeah.
Oh, that's just the little perfect topper there. If you annoy one of the most insufferable people in the country, that's good.
Right.
For this action, I mean, I would just turn to what Hadass Tier said, the Economist, and one of my Haymarket Books colleagues. I'm just looking at her Twitter feed here. So yes, I'm reading directly from Twitter. This is what we've been reduced to. But she just was at the action herself. And if you look at her Twitter there, she comments on how one of the things I love about Jewish Voice for Peace is that when they organize a mass action that disrupts people's lives, they're still engaging and trying to win over more people. And she shows, here are flyers passed out to drivers stuck in traffic during the bridge shutdown. Now, again, this to me is like how you do it properly. Like you have all these pissed off, like working class New Yorkers, half of whom don't even know what the issue is. Like they're just pissed off that they're late for work. If you're going to do this kind of action, like you cannot just let all those people be boiling with hatred for the movement for 3 hours till the cops clear it out and don't know what the issue was. Like, so they go through and they're flyering infuriated people stuck on, you know, the Brooklyn Bridge. Like that's organizing. Like that's impressive. To me. So I'm just going to hide behind what Hadass said there. I think that's the best take I can have.
Absolutely. That is so freaking true. I notice, you know, as being an activist for 8 years, I notice so often that people organize actions and they don't have a list of demands. They don't have flyers of what we're actually trying to achieve, you know, what we're trying to do. And for people, not everyone understands what you're going through. So you have to do that. Oh, what's the baby's name?
I think one of the things that was a great example, you know, I think, well, yeah, I think the Women's March had a great set of demands. They were very.
Yeah.
They were, I mean, like, always listen to people of color. Oh, wait. Always have tons of cops there so people feel safe. Oh, wait. What? Yeah. What's Kitty?
I think that was really, I mean, that was, you know, and you just made me think about it. That was an interesting time, right? When Trump won and you would have protests happening and it became kind of almost for like a hot 2 months, you know, like a lot of marches, a lot of protests. But yeah, did they really have demands? No. The message was Trump sucks.
Yeah, Trump is gross was the message, yes.
Yeah.
We need a vagina in the White House. And it's like, I have that meme where it's like, Bernie's like, you're a day late and $27 short. And it's like, yeah, where the fuck were you, man? We were all in the streets. What the fuck? But yeah, and that's why I'm, you know, God, how many times in the past several years have I said on my show, guest after guest after guest, we're never going to see an uprising. Like this is never going to happen in our lifetime. And holy fuck, this has been beautiful. Yeah, it's taken this, unfortunately, but I mean, my biggest fear is activist fatigue because it is so fucking real. I've been there. And so I really hope it doesn't come to that. But right now, I mean, we're going, you know, weeks and weeks and we're still doing shit. We're still in the streets and we're still talking about it and stuff. And that's so fucking amazing to see. I didn't think we'd ever see it in my lifetime again. I really didn't.
You know, slowly you're starting to see more, shall we call them normie Dems, right? Starting to challenge the lesser of two evil narrative, right? Like, and again, who knows? There were a lot of people who, you know, were tough left back in the Bernie days. And then when Biden became the nominee, they suddenly were like, okay, you know, we got to go behind Biden, right? So I'll still hold my breath. But, you know, you are starting to see certain people, like even Medi Hassan, right? Who,
yeah, what the fuck?
Yeah, I remember when he was very like obnoxious when Biden became the nominee, calling people out, being like, oh, you're not going to vote for Biden. Now, if you look on his Twitter, right, there are like some takes of him where he's like, why would they? you know, like, oh, there's a lot of people, particularly Arabs in Michigan, that are saying they're not going to vote for Biden. And I don't know the exact word, but he's basically saying, yeah, they have a point. I could see it, right? And he's actually fighting with blue no matter who people on there. So it is fascinating to see kind of some of the evolution of some people. Now, time will tell if A, it's genuine, B, if it's sustaining. But at least right now, this is where we are, and this is what you're built off of, right? And as much as you love to see the George Floyd protests and how powerful that was for a month, maybe, right? That I think a lot of people that were part of it, not everybody, but a lot, were doing it because Trump was in office, and they saw it as a way to go to Trump, right?
All the white people, let's put the majority of white people.
Right.
I say it as a white person, it's fucking true. I mean, I was out there all the time, but a lot of the white people there, I never saw at any other actions, like ever, for anything. So
but
yeah,
I think what we're starting to see is a lot of people are challenging that narrative, and you know that it's shifting a little bit because these people are protesting with Biden in office, right? So it's now challenging the narrative of, oh, Biden's in office, so everything's okay. And people are starting to see things for how they are and expressing it, I think, in a much more articulate and specific way than maybe we've even seen beforehand, right? Because a lot of those people that marched with George Floyd, they, on the surface level may have agreed, but then when you say, oh, what do you think about police funding? Oh, what do you think about abolishing the police, right? Then they'd be like, oh, we can't do that. That was just bad that what that one cop did. And that's where the difference, and so I don't know.
Oh my God. Speaking of which, though, did you guys, as a pacifist, I shouldn't even laugh at this because I'm so nonviolent, but Happy Shanksgiving was trending. I was like, what is this? And I clicked on it, and they're like, Derek Chauvin stabbed him. And I was like, oh my God, no, they did not. Happy Shanksgiving. Damn, that's good though. I ain't gonna lie. That's catchy. Damn, I'm going to hell. Did we have anything else, Andrew? Or just us funny?
Yeah, I think just the funny. Give me 1 second to pull it up. We also did have that letter too. I don't know if you still want to.
Oh, yes, the letter.
Okay,
I really want to hear your perspectives because I don't want to be like, I don't want to side with something just because it's what I believe. I want to really dissect it.
Okay, letter from Israeli hostage to Hamas. To the generals who have accompanied me in recent weeks, it seems that we will part ways tomorrow, but I thank you from the bottom of my heart for your extraordinary humanity shown towards my daughter Amelia. You were like parents to her, inviting her into your rooms whenever she desired. She acknowledges feeling like all of you are her friends, not just friends, but truly beloved and good. Thank you for the many hours you spent as caregivers. Thank you for being patient with her and showering her with sweets, fruits, and everything available, even when it was not. Children should not be in captivity, but thanks to you and other kind people we met along the way, my daughter felt like a queen in Gaza.
Wow.
In general, she acknowledges feeling like the center of the world. She hasn't met anyone on her long journey from the rank and file to leadership who didn't treat her with gentleness, affection, and love. I will forever be a prisoner of gratitude because she did not leave here with a lifelong psychological trauma. I remember your kind behavior granted here despite the difficult situation you were dealing with yourselves and the severe losses you suffered here in Gaza. I wish in this world we could truly be good friends. I wish you all health and well-being. Health and love to you and your family's children. Many thanks. Danielle and Amelia. Wow. Huh.
So, here's my thing. We're hearing nonstop about the political prisoners who were held in Israel, who are watching murders and being beaten and being raped, things like this. But then this comes out and it it was really crazy too, because these videos are coming out of the political prisoners being released from the Israeli hostages being released, and they're literally waving goodbye and smiling at HAMAS. I just don't want this taken down. Which is really interesting because they're smiling and waving, like genuinely, and there's pictures of them walking with their arms around each other. And I don't want to just be like, oh, see, they're great, because that's like the side I'm on. So I want to, is this extra? Like, is it like so nice that it's like, I don't know, like, or is it just a mom who's thankful that their kid was safe because she knew they wouldn't be bombed and murdered if they were with them and protected, not necessarily hostage, but protected? Like, I don't know. What do you guys think?
It's an anecdote, right? So I think, hard to say, hard to know what was really behind it or the motives. It's very possible that she felt like she was treated very well by them. And maybe they were just, I'm sure there is a range in terms of experiences that hostages have had with HAMAS, right? And so it could have been that this was just a good experience for this particular person, where others probably didn't, right? Because it is war. And let's face it, they were, uplifted by Bibi and others. And I'm not going to sit here and defend HAMAS and say that they are all good, because I think they have their own issues, right? But that obviously doesn't say, power dynamics. So I don't know. What are your thoughts, Rob?
Yeah, well, like you said, it's a single case, so it may turn out to be broadly representative. It may be like some weird side case. It's early days on all this. Obviously, hostages are just starting to be returned, so time will tell. But a number of them have referred to being treated, well, certainly well compared to like how Israel treats Palestinian detainees, where torture and beatings are completely uniform, and where their alleged military courts have conviction rates in the high 90%. Looks legitimate, doesn't it? So, like, there is, like, on the face of it, Hamas, the delicious, produce compliment. It wouldn't have to do a huge amount to clear the bar set by Israel's treatment of political prisoners and detainees. So, like, you could look at it that way. As always, looking at it relative to the state that has all the money and the EU standard of living and the NATO military is always a good way to approach this when you're talking with people. But a number of hostages have referred to being treated well, and it does make sense. When you look at historic hostage takings by the PLO and others, there's all kinds of instances, like, sometimes hostages get killed purposefully or in the crazy chaos of hostage rescues and stuff. But often the whole point of taking a hostage is that it's a bargaining chip. If you go to all that trouble of getting your society destroyed to come up with some bargaining chips violently, you don't want to just let the bargaining chip die because you didn't get its diabetes medication on time. And so some of these cases, like even the New York Times and the Journal have, again, sort of grudgingly allowed to get printed, talk about how, older hostages, and they got medication, or at least some medication. They were even attended by physicians, probably better conditions than the average Gazan could hope to have, because this is a special entity. We can use this to get, every one of these people is worth 3 or 4 Palestinians in a reciprocal hostage negotiation or, detainee release, plan, which has been going on all week, so interesting. But I just feel like this stuff, I think your instinct is right. Like, you don't just want to jump in and go, see how, they're HAMAS is very good. They never hurt anybody. Like, all right, it's a movement that comes from an extremely brutalized and decades-long tortured people. Even if it's on the right side, it's not going to be nice. It's like the National Liberation Front in Vietnam. Like, they're clearly on the right side, but they'll torture you. Like, it's Because us Westerners, one way or another, always inflict these conditions on people. And we go, see, the Boxer Rebellion Chinese, they tortured this Christian missionary, so we're right to control China and flood them with opium. Like, it's always the imperialist and the aggressor's fault that this shit happens. Like, maybe that's the best thing for us Americans to be hearing right now is, when we wrote the international rules of war and the Nuremberg trials, everyone, it was concluded that aggression is the supreme international crime because it contains all the other shit that's going to happen when you have aggression, like violent resistance and crazy brutal chaos and stuff. And it's clearly the same is true for settler colonialism and strangling Gaza for 15 years. So, but time will tell on the hostages, it's ugly on ugly at that point. So anything positive like that, like we just saw that happens is, in my mind, kind of like a nice miracle. Like, a few people got out of this unscathed dish.
Right.
That's nice to see, you should think.
And I do think, and I'm not saying that, Joy, you were bringing this into the fold by showing this letter. It just kind of reminds me in general as well, since we're obviously talking about HAMAS, I think one of the biggest traps and landmines, no pun intended, because there are really landmines that are involved in this war, sadly, but that Zionists and pro-Israel narrative and the oppressors use is to try and get you to talk about how good or bad HAMAS is, right?
Which is why I didn't share it online. I was like, I'm not going to share this on Twitter or Facebook. I'll bring it up on the show.
No,
so
100%. Because, let me just finish my point a second, because I think what I was going to do is, it's a trap. And if we're talking about colonialism and oppression, right, how good or bad they are should be irrelevant in that sense, right? If we just look at the facts, right? Palestinians' lands was taken from them, right? They had to continuously retreat, continuously get taken from their homes. And all years of terrorism amongst them and their families and generational trauma led to a lot of this, right? And so if you focus anything on HAMAS, it's besides the point. You're veering away from the real issue, right? HAMAS is just a byproduct of everything that's been going on, in a sense.
That's what I said to my husband the other night. I said, this is annoying, but TERROIS are not born, they are created. That's what happens. Does it justify it? Am I a sympathizer or what have you? That's moot. That's totally separate. But this is, these were created. They were literally democratically elected. And as Andrew said, helped by Israel. So, I mean, they exist. So, but I didn't want to share that because I was like, I don't want to.
And to be clear, sorry, you cut out.
I was going to say, it's like those breadcrumbs, they'll be like, screenshot, Joy is a, and it's just going to be like a mess. And so I didn't share it, but I wanted to talk to you guys about it because I did find it interesting.
Yeah. HAMAS was elected, I think, in 2006, and since then there have been no other elections with them. They've been in power since. So, is that democratic? No. They were elected once. They are in power, but again, that's the same thing where it's like that veers away from the whole issue at play, which is they're being oppressed day by day. Half of them are children that are getting killed brutally, do not have the same access to healthcare that others do, are not allowed to leave their square radius regularly, right? So, it's a...
Yeah, oh my God, we could talk about this for hours, but you know how we do? We always leave it on a funny. So this one legit when my friend sent me this, I legit almost peed. Like, it's that good. I shouldn't have set it up that way, because now people are like, ooh. I want to hear Andrew read it. That's the funniest part.
I jerked
Andrew,
off to
read it out loud.
I jerked off to Poison for almost a year before I found out they were all dudes, and then for like another 3 months.
Really? They are?
So good. That
Wow.
is so good. I can't.
And it goes to show, you know, I mean, your cis beauty standards really are, you know, a construct.
I mean,
Wow.
right?
I could totally see letting one go to that. You know, that's a compelling album cover.
Yeah. I mean, those are some. They definitely smoke Pall Mall. Like, those are. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Rob. Especially being, you know, not feeling so hot, but you're welcome back anytime, and definitely keep us updated. Where can people find you?
You know, my dumb Twitter, where you can watch me say dumb things, is Ironic Professor on there. And, you know, my writing's in current affairs a lot. And I cover a lot of tech stuff for Jacobin as well. So folks can watch there. And again, a fun new book coming out at the end of the summer on the ruling class, which is the best thing I've ever written. It's really funny and really disgusting. And, you know, later this summer when I have to promote it, you won't be able to escape my face discussing it. So
hey,
I'll see everyone then.
You will be disgusting. You will be discussing disgusting and funny things.
Yes, that's correct.
Nice. I like it. That's a wrap waiting to happen. Andrew, what do you have coming up besides having me visit?
Not too much. Yeah, at least not anything planned immediately, but yeah.
We have to do a short show when we're together, because the other times we've hung out, we haven't gone live together. We have to do even a 10-minute. Just like,
you don't need a reality show out of it.
Yeah, but you're really funny when you get drunk. Like, really funny. Well, thank you all so much for tuning in. I'm going live again Wednesday. I have an incredibly amazing guest coming on either Wednesday or next week. I'm not going to announce it until they confirm which day. But follow me on the Twitter if you want to know who. But yeah, Wednesday, 9 p.m. Eastern. But smash the like button, smash subscribe, smash share, and just smash each other. I don't know. But thanks for tuning in.
If
Much
you
love.
so choose to and want to, yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Oh,
and thank you, Rob. Hope you had some fun with our shenanigans.